everyone, and welcome back to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I am your host, Uncivil Law, a licensed attorney in Texas, Virginia, and before the U.S. Supreme Court, and I hope you're having a great day. For today's coverage, we turn our attention once again to the James Crumbley trial, where there are reports that the judge wants to speak with the attorneys for unclear reasons. It's only 4 o'clock on the East Coast, so it's a little unlikely the jury is going to recess for the day. So either, one, there is a note from the jury they need to talk about, or two, something else externally has happened that needs to be addressed in some way. So, for example, some improper thing happened by somebody, or interference, or you're sick, or whatever. We'll see what's going on. Unclear information what's going on at this time. Yeah, so we're not sure what's going on. It seems they're not saying verdict. They're saying the judge wants to speak with the attorneys. So either it's a verdict or it is a note from the juror. That note could be one of them is sick. It could be a note that whatever. It could be something external to the deliberation in some way. Some sort of something, whatever that would be. Someone did something other than a juror that needs to be addressed by the court. Improper influence or attempted improper influence or improper remark or whatever. Who knows? Something. We'll see. Are the alternates still hanging around? I don't know the answer to that question. I think the answer is yes, but don't hold me to it. I think they were held yesterday in a separate courtroom. So it might be the case that they've been let out of the courthouse or weren't required to come back today. So it might be the case that if a juror needs to be replaced, that we'll need to call one of the alternates from wherever they happen to be, which at this point would necessitate, because there's really not enough time to get the juror here and having a discussion. If the jury is still available, if the alternates are still available, then we're going to dismiss a juror, recuse a juror for whatever reason, then we'll see. There are rumors that the judge is speaking with the attorneys in chambers as opposed to speaking in the courtroom, which, if it's in chambers, suggests more sensitive possibility. The judge is speaking in chambers, and then it's not a question from will be done open. That suggests some sort of something has gone wrong. That could be a lot of different things. But it suggests it's more suggestive of the possibility, because if it were just like, hey, a juror's sick, there's no particular reason not to discuss that in open. This juror has become ill. Oh my God, they had to go to the hospital, right? There's no particular reason to put that in closed. So you're thinking, your mind, at least my mind, snaps more to the possibilities. The juror did something wrong. Someone's tried to interfere with the jury. Threats, maybe, by someone externally. Threat against the juror, a threat against the court. That's of sufficient seriousness to warrant something. Maybe someone made a fake Reddit post again. Remember when that happened during the, wasn't it Rittenhouse trial? When someone's like, yes, I'm a juror, ask me anything, but they weren't really a juror, but they were trolling. But of course, the court had no way of knowing that at the time, and then they had to investigate the thing. I forget how it all panned out, but they weren't really a juror. It was just someone being a douche. So maybe Reddit did oopsies again. Maybe Reddit did an oopsies again. That's always a strong possibility. Brooks? Was it Brooks? Yeah, either way. Yeah, was it Brooks? It's so hard to keep these trials separate sometimes. So hard to remember what is what. Yeah, Brooks, fair enough. Yeah, it's one of them. Yeah, it's one of the trials. Lord. Brooks was interesting. It was interesting when he was in court briefly for charges for the tampering with the witness charge. He was so broken, like all the fight's been taken out of him. It could also, of course, be this whole thing could just be a bad game of telephone, which is also a real possibility. Maybe it's just a verdict and everyone's really confused about what, which is a distinct possibility. Like me saying, oh, they're meeting in chambers. Like I said that the judge is meeting with them in chambers. I said that like that was a statement of fact. That was a mistake. I was relying on what other people were saying in other chats, like they know anything. That was a mistake. Who knows what's going on? Witness tampering, I think it was one of the witnesses in the case relating to, was it one of the witnesses in the case before they was ultimately, it doesn't matter. He was on trial, he was charged in a different county with witness tampering, and there was a hearing after he was convicted where he was brought in a full wheelchair and everything else, and like he had no life left in him. He looked like a completely broken person. So it was pretty funny. Only the prosecutors are with the judge, defense is at the table? Ex parte? Yeah. That's odd. If how do you know that, Pugsmama? Are you like, you know that from somewhere? But yeah, if it's only the prosecutors that are meeting with the judge in chambers, ex parte, that opens up a lot more nefarious possibilities. Now you're thinking that it's potentially misconduct by an attorney. Okay, so Long Crime is now saying a jury question came in but was addressed into the judge's chamber. This is not your ordinary jury question, particularly if it's only the prosecutor's meeting with that opens up a lot of very uncomfortable possibilities. If it's only the prosecutors that are meeting with the judge. Yeah. Yeah, question they only share with one side. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not a question. Yeah, that's like a jury question that's being read in chambers. No, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, Law and Crime is saying it's a jury question that was read and addressed in chambers. I'm like, no, it wasn't. Especially if it was only the prosecutor meeting. That is not a jury question. It may have come from the jury, but it is not a question. It'd be more in the form of help. We have evidence that one of our members have been bribed. That is not a question. That is something has gone horribly wrong. Are they still showing the door? No, they've moved on back to the Seal of Michigan. Yeah. No. Yeah, no, that's bullshit. Yeah, the Log Crime Network with their 5.66 million subscribers has pinned a comment. Jury question came in and was addressed in judge's chambers. Uncivil Law says bullshit. Bullshit. That is not what happened. Bullshit. Yeah. And if that's what they were told and they believe that bullshit, man, they're even stupider than I thought. So either one, they're just making shit up. Or two, they were told that and they ran with that like it was true. No one thought to themselves, geez, that doesn't really make any sense. Why would that be true? That doesn't make any sense to me. That sounds like some bullshit. But that's what they're reporting. Yeah, yeah. Does Seal have a long distance relationship with South Carolina Clock and Chandelier? I don't know what's going on. Yeah. After all, remember the whole thing earlier with the like, geez, can we discuss this or not, right? And the judge waffling around like they were talking about a thing without talking about it. And I was like, well, geez, here's what I think they were talking about, because they can't say the thing. So they're talking about it without talking about it, because it's like, well, can we talk about it in secret? And the judge was like, no, I don't think we can. I don't think we can talk about it in secret because of the rules. And then we read the rules, and the rules were like, yeah, that's kind of tight. Like, not a lot of reasons we're meeting in chambers. Oh, yeah, this is just a jury question. This is just a jury question that was being read in chambers. Sure it is. No one's buying that bullshit. Where's my hat? I was feeling a little warm. So the hat has gone off for the moment. Someone needs to go over to Law and Crime Network chat and tell them that Law and Crime is spreading disinformation. This is not your ordinary routine jury question. If it were a routine ordinary jury question, it'd be read in court, because the defendant has a right to be there, obviously, because he has the right to assistance of counsel, which also means that he has the right to assist his own counsel. So if he has to be there, if it's just a routine jury question, you know, like, hey, we have this bullshit question. Like, okay, well, you know, bring the defendant in. This is not a jury question. I'm also protesting in Law and Crime Network's chat to bring back Addy, their mods, one of their mods. Addy has apparently been replaced. This is not good. Addy was good people. So we are also on the Where is Addy, the mod watch, because their mod is no longer there, suspiciously absent. Yeah. No, this is exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, in law. Yeah, yeah. Sweet to tat in lure chat says, no way they read ordinary jury question chambers. Sweet to tat knows what's going on. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. You are right. There is no way this is just a jury question. Yeah, let's get Addy to uncivil. I know. Let's get Addy over here. I know. Maybe we can get Addy as a moderator here. She was fine. She seemed to like me okay. It doesn't seem like lawful law. I know. There's just no way. On the face of this earth, it was just an ordinary routine jury question. The defendant would have a right to be present for that, because he has the right to be present for his own trial, don't you know? And then someone's probably going to say to him, well, the defendant was brought into chambers. And that's the point where I look at you and I'm like, okay, I want you to think about that statement real hard. Do you really think they brought the defendant into the chambers? Do you really think that's a thing that happened? So since the defendant wasn't there, something has gone horribly wrong. I'm hearing it was a jury question. Bullshit. It was a jury question addressed in chambers. Bullshit. I don't believe that for a second. What's happening? I don't know. We are staring at the screen at the moment of the seal of Michigan. And the Law and Crimes Network has put right on the banner, I will share with you Law and Crime is misinformation. Because I'm like, there is no way this is true. This is just not a possibility. This is like uncivil law calls bullshit. I don't think so. So Law and Crime, in their infinite wisdom, this is fair use because I'm mocking Law and Crime at this point. I'd like to take notice to the Law and Crime people. Law and Crime, right on their chat, says it's 4:14 local time in the upper left corner, jury deliberation hour 7 day 2 in the upper right corner, and then they have a banner. It says update. Jury question came in and was addressed in judges' chambers. Bullshit. That is not what happened. Bullshit. Yeah, stop speculating. I know. Yeah, it's like TJ. Yeah, in chat. I am a lawyer, so I know a 10 more than never does. Yeah, someone Law and Crime says, don't speculate. You don't know any more than anyone else. I'm like, I know a little bit more than everyone else. Yeah, it's just no way. It's just no way. It doesn't make any sense. What do I think could have happened? I mean, there's not a lot of possibilities at this point. It's got to be something that basically affects the security of the trial in some way. It would have to be, I would imagine. Because even if it were something like sensitive, you could still have them in court and be like, okay, the jury has passed me a note that provides sensitive information because it says, you know, juror X and X is sick and has to go to the hospital or something. So I can't read it into the record. But would you like to inspect the note so you can see it? Or what, right? It's got to be the most likely scenario. The Occam's razor solution is it's got to be something that affects the internal security of the trial. That is the Occam's razor solution. And so if you assume it came from the jury, which is a proposition I am not willing to grant, by the way, that it actually came from the jury. But that's not a proposition I'm willing to grant. But if you assume that, then it's got to be something like, you know, external influence, which I'm not even sure why that's not being read in open court. Unless it's like, hey, one of our members admitted to being bribed. Right? So that we've got to conduct a hearing in the chambers. That's the only thing that makes sense. It's like, yeah, I was like, yeah, Eden says, I don't know what's going on. It's like, yeah, well, that is true. I don't know what is going on, but I can exclude what isn't going on. And this is not just a routine ordinary jury question. Yes, it's true. I don't know what's going on. You are correct. However, I have some pretty good ideas of what's not going on. What is not going on is that this is just a routine ordinary question. That doesn't make sense. If a routine ordinary question, it would just be read in open court, like every routine ordinary question, in the presence of the defendant, who obviously has the constitutional right. Do I have to point out the obvious? He has the constitutional right to be present at his own trial. Do I really have to point that out? I don't think so. All right, so it's not in open court. So it must be in chambers. Okay, is the defendant in chambers? Fuck no. The defendant is in custody, in security, you know, in handcuffs. Do you think they brought him in chambers? Do you think the judge wants him in chambers? Hell no. So the defendant is in chambers. Okay. So the defendant isn't in chambers. All right. So what possibilities does that leave left? Not a lot. And if you assume that only the prosecutors are present in the room, that makes the possibilities even more constricted, because now it's an ex parte communication, and that's a really short list too. It's like, now you're talking, if it's ex parte, now it's basically because, well, and it's from the prosecution. If only the defense were in the room, like you could say, okay, it's ex parte because it involves confidential communication from the client. So I have to tell the judge something for some reason, but I can't let the prosecutors know. So there's some ethics situations, like I have obligations to the court, right? Because I am an officer of the court. So I'm an officer of the court, but I can't tell the prosecutor about it because it would expose my client, right? So I somehow have information that the court needs to know about, but I can't tell the other side because it would expose my client. So we're navigating what's called Rule 1.6, or if we're in Texas, it's called Rule 1.05, because they want to be all fancy about it, right? Privilege. Under what circumstances can I break privilege, right? So basically, this is a scenario where I am forced to break privilege because I have to bring it to the attention of the judge. But obviously, I don't want to expose my client's secret to the prosecutor for every possible reason, right? So there's some narrow band of reasons in which only the defendant would be in the room because of this kind of scenario. If it's only the prosecutor in the room, then like you're thinking law enforcement purpose. You're thinking law enforcement purpose because you're thinking this is speaking about a corruption in the law enforcement process. And so that's information that doesn't necessarily need to come to the immediate attention of the defense because the prosecutor, being part of the executive branch, right, it's basically revealing or making alert to them the possibility that there's some sort of corruption somewhere in the process, or a corruption that potentially impacts the jury in some way. And so we're only going to let them know about it at like the first instance because we don't want to taint the investigation by the announcement of the investigation. So the investigation is going to be, at least it's going to proceed within the executive branch at the first start. So like depending on who's on the room and who's not in the room, you can make some reasonable assumptions about what's going on. Yeah, so that's what's happening. The prosecutor getting death threats. Yeah, something like that, maybe. It would be something, it would be information. The only reason the prosecutor could be ex parte in the room would be because it is not concerning the case. It's in the strictest sense, right? It's not concerning the case in the strictest sense. So you're thinking this is an external influence. And if it's the prosecutor in the room, then it's likely, because if it were coming from the jury, then you probably wouldn't have either side in the room. The judge would probably be doing hearings without either party in the room. If we started to have to like interview jurors, then you might go about it that way, not have either party in the room. Or you'd have both parties in the room, right? So you'd either have both parties in the room or neither party in the room. But you wouldn't only have one party in the room if you're thinking corruption of the jury. So you're thinking information that is somehow only known to the prosecutor, and like that doesn't relate to the trial or in and of itself. It's something that doesn't relate to the facts of the case. So that doesn't leave open a lot of possibilities. Yeah. This is all, of course, assuming that it came from the jury. As they say it's a jury question, I'm calling bullshit. It's a jury question. It's possible, but that's not the most likely scenario. Because if it's a jury question, what are the scenarios that would require this, right? One of our members is refusing to deliberate. Well, there's no reason to keep that secret. And one of our members refusing to deliberate. One of our members has hid themselves in the bathroom and is refusing to participate. There's no reason to keep that secret. Whatever. What are the scenarios of it's coming from the jury that would require an in-camera inspection? And you're thinking threats, bribes. I saw another juror speaking to someone they shouldn't be speaking to. One of the jurors goes by the name Hippo Lover and likes to go on the internet and talk about things they learned in the trial. Well, so something like that would be the most logical conclusion. Yeah. But of the many possibilities, of what draws the fewest assumptions, of the Occam's razor solutions, what draws the fewest assumptions, the least The least assumption is not, oh, this is just an ordinary jury question. It's being done in chambers. That is not the right answer. That is definitely not the right answer. Oh, this is just an ordinary jury question, just a normal day at the office. But for some reason, they're doing it in chambers. That is not the Occam's razor solution to this problem. Yeah. No. So yeah, yeah. So who's buying this story? Who's buying this bullshit? Now, the fact that like everyone hasn't come into the courtroom and like that the case hasn't immediately come to a grinding halt. Maybe this is like, is the jury really deliberating? Also, incidentally, not for nothing, Law and Crime has absolutely no idea if the jury is deliberating right now. They're just guessing the jury is deliberating. They have no clue. They just don't know. All they know for sure is that they can't see the jury. That's the extent of their knowledge. They do not see the jury, so they assume the jury is deliberating. Who knows if the jury is deliberating? Maybe they're being brought one by one into the judge's chambers who ask, whose bag of cocaine is this? Who knows? But it's not a jury question. So whatever you can say about this, Law and Crime Network is making up lies. It's just a normal jury question, just being handled in chambers. It's just a normal day in the office. Definitely what's happening. Now, define ex parte. Ex parte just means in the presence of only one side. That's all ex parte means. It's in the presence of one side. It means just the defense or just the prosecution. That's all ex parte. Both parties are not there. If only one party is there, it's ex parte. It's outside the presence of a party. Ex parte. It's outside the presence of a party. Ex parte. Only one side is there. And the judge only having conversations with one side is bad. Right? The judge isn't supposed to have conversations with just the prosecutor or just the defense lawyer. That's not normally how that works, right? The judge is supposed to have discussions only when both sides are present. So if only one of them is present, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong. There's not a lot of scenarios in which only one side is going to be present. And none of those scenarios are the jury wants to know, about this thing in the statute somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, Law and Crime took down their misinformation. No doubt. So if both sides are in the room, if both sides are there, then it's not ex parte, but then you're looking for a reason for it to be in chambers, which we've gone over those reasons in the Michigan statute, and they seem to be relatively tight. So this is something that is in a more sensitive nature, that it can't be done in open chambers. Or open court, rather. Open chambers. That's like not a thing. What does Hanlon's razor say about this? Maybe the jury's asking the judge about nullification. Cute. Ex parte means examined apart. It's Latin. I just assume that ex means outside and parte means party. That's what ex means, right? Not party, outside party. So it's Latin. I am. Probably not the food order for tomorrow. Probably not. Can we go home for the day? Probably not. Hey, we have a question about this jury instruction. We have a question about this aspect of the law. That doesn't sound like the simplest solution here. So the fact that what is he on? The fact that no one has come into open court and said anything leads me to the possibility that this is an investigation of some kind. An investigation to whom? Unclear. But an investigation into somebody. Someone somewhere has reported a problem of some kind that requires an investigation of some kind that we can't make in the open record right now. And the degree of seriousness of that investigation, of course, I have no clue. But it's at least concerning enough to look into it, and also we don't want to tip people off that we're looking into the thing. So what are, maybe maybe a juror has misconducted, maybe an attorney has misconducted, maybe someone tried to make a threat to an attorney or a jury, maybe someone was caught, maybe a bag of cocaine was found on the floor. I don't know, but someone somewhere has done a thing that somehow requires an investigation, because the fact that it's not in the open suggests those possibilities. And maybe the investigation will take 30 minutes and everyone will decide, oh, there's nothing here. Or maybe the investigation will go on for the rest of the day. Maybe the jury is deliberating, or maybe they're not. Law and crime. You say the jury is deliberating like you know that for sure. Law and crime. Who knows? I'll just simply remind you that, as the judge herself told you, they can only deliberate if all 12 of them are in the room. And if we're trying to figure out, hey, which of the jurors did it bad, and we're bringing the jurors one at a time into the chambers for, discussion about which of you did it bad, then they're not deliberating because they're not all in the room. So you don't know they're deliberating. Law and crime. You're just saying I can't see them, so they must be deliberating. Uh-huh. There's a witness on the stand? That'd be good. Is there something happening in open court that's just not being televised? That'd be good. Although, you would think the media would have swooped in to show the defendant being brought into the room. It'd be odd if the defendant wasn't there. The jury asking to go home isn't the most likely solution, because at the time we started this, it was only 4 o'clock. I think it was just before 4 o'clock, to be precise. I think it was 2 minutes till 4, something like that, when this party started. So the jury asking to go home at 4 o'clock seems unlikely. And also, if that's what they're asking, there's no reason to do this in secret. So it's not, oh, the jury wants to go home for the day. Now, the judge may wind up dismissing the jury for the day, but if the judge comes in the next 3 minutes and says, hey, by the way, I'm sending the jury home for the day, I promise you the reason is not because the note said, can we go home for the day? I'm just telling you. If the judge comes in the next 3 minutes and he's like, you know what, jury, you can come in tomorrow at 9 in the morning. Thanks, see you tomorrow. If that's what the judge says, I promise you, there's a 99% chance that it wasn't that the jury sent a note, can we go home for the day? That is not what prompted the jury going home for the day. Not a chance. There's testimony? Is law and crime failing us? Hold on. Has law and crime failed us? What are they doing? Has law and crime failed us? Damn it, law and crime. I'm trying to do work over here. No, Fox 2 Detroit still has the seal. I'm not seeing any testimony. Fox 2 still has the seal. Yeah, there's no testimony. I'm like, yeah, that would be odd as shit. I think people in the chat are just making shit up. Bad people in chat for making shit up. We're trying to stop disinformation over here. Don't spread disinformation. That's mean. Yeah. And where is Addie? Addie, wherever you are out there, we think that you're a good mod for Law and Crime, and we hope you come back. You were nice to us over here on Civil Law, and we appreciate that. Yeah, ex parte means from one party. Makes sense. From or out of a party. Yeah, ex means out. Or from. Yeah, out. Out of a party. One side. $4.99 from Andy the Game Maker. Hello, Andy the Game Maker. Hope you're well. Illegitimate illegitimum non carborundium. Don't let the bastards get you down. That's always a good motto. Preach. Das ex machina. Yeah, out of the machine. Got out of the machine. There you go. Could it be some kind of last minute deal? There's no reason to do that in Chambers. No reason to do that in Chambers. If they struck a deal, they just come into open court and be like, you know, we're good. Thanks. There's no reason to do that in Chambers. Hey, Judge, we can send the jury home now. We're all good. There's no reason to do that in Chambers. It's not a deal. No. Addie is a panelist on another channel I watched. They aren't bringing them back. When they sold, they brought their own people in. That's lame. Well, tell Addie that she's welcome here. We don't pay anything, but she's welcome to join us and help wrangle the uncivilian she likes. Also, tell her that we think that she was done dirty. Aquamarin gives 5 gift memberships. Thank you very much. Alyssa in Law and Crime says, what was the question? There's no question, Alyssa. That's the secret. There's no question. It's a lie. It's a lie, Alyssa. Lie. Well, at some point, presumably, they're going to dismiss the jury for the day. Although, it'll be interesting to see when we get to the end of the day. Your odds for your odds of the judge just saying, you know, well, everyone, we haven't been able to reach a verdict today. Let's all go home and come back tomorrow at 9. That doesn't seem like the most likely scenario. But, you know, it certainly could be. And also, incidentally, by the way, not necessarily the truth. Because, you know, maybe the judge is being a little deceptive because of reasons that presumably the parties would know about, but we don't need to know about. So maybe there's something else going on and they don't necessarily want to let the rest of the people know what's going on. So maybe there's a little bit of fudging when the jury is sent home for the end of the day, if that's what happens. Blessed in Texas says, my shelves look great. Thank you. I spent a lot of time on arranging them and getting everything looking nice. And I think the artwork on the wall also turned out very nicely. I am pleased. Don't forget to renew your Twitch. That's always helpful. Pontiac courts close at 4:30. That may be typically true, but if the jury wants to modify those hours, I imagine they would. I don't know for sure, but I'd be willing to bet that it's not necessarily a, first of all, it's 4:39 there at the moment. Second of all, I don't think it's like that strict when it comes to jury deliberation. If the jury wants to, I think the judge would let them deliberate to like any reason, to be honest. If they wanted to go to 8, then I think they'd let them go to 8. I'm just saying. Especially if they were anywhere near close. Like, Your Honor, we really want to go a couple more. If it's anything even approaching reasonable, I think the judge will say yeah. No. The courts may close at 4:30, they may not, but this jury doesn't necessarily need to stop working. This jury may chew right along, my friend. Thank you for saying the background looks professional. I did attempt to make it more professional. And I even did things like putting plexi over the top of the YouTube button because it was supposed to help reduce reflection. I'm not sure how much it helped, but at least somewhat. I tried. Jennifer took 10 hours? Yeah. We'll get tomorrow before we get to the weekend? Yeah. I thought they'd be coming back at, at lunch. My bet was they would be coming back around 1:30. That didn't happen. I wonder if perhaps things happened before now that we didn't know about. Right? There was some hubbub in the courthouse. But that doesn't necessarily mean what happened now. What happened might have happened 2 hours ago. Maybe for whatever combination of reason. It's just the awareness of it is filtering in. So we don't even know when this decree was sent to the judge for the chambers. We don't know. And we also don't know, like, if it was an investigation, maybe the investigation already happened. You don't know what the scope of the thing is. Maybe there was an investigation into something, and maybe there was an allegation, and maybe the judge ordered the bailiffs / whomever to do an investigation, and maybe they did an investigation, and maybe the results of the investigation came back already. Depending on what they're investigating, it could be very quick, depending on what they need to be able to show. So maybe that was to inform them of an investigation into something, and we don't want to expose it at this time because even though presumably the investigation came back negative, if it were positive, then presumably if the investigation already happened, and if it were positive, then presumably we would have better information about it. So if the investigation already happened and the thing was to inform them of the investigation, then the result is probably negative. But at the same time, we don't want to inform people of the thing that we're investigating, because making people aware of the thing we're investigating may itself pose a problem because of, insert reasons. At least at this time. Maybe it's something that people may be made aware of at a later time, but maybe it's not a good idea to inform people at this time. You have to speculate a little bit about what it could be, but again, on the list of possibilities, standard ordinary jury note falls pretty low on the list of probability. Yeah. Nothing's happening, but we're building monuments to the gods of speculation. Yes, but we're speculating with a little informed speculation. So we're not speculating completely in the dark because we're a reasonably informed panel. So we can speculate with a little bit of educated guessing about some things that might be happening. Lawyers do have in fact bad takes sometimes. Lawyers do have bad takes sometimes too. It's true. What's the consensus prediction? The consensus prediction right now is that something is rotten in the state of Denmark. That is the consensus prediction. Yeah. Someone asked me in chat. Someone asked me in Long Crimes Network's chat, what do you think's up? I think something has gone wrong. An investigation is something is occurring. What? I couldn't say. Could be misconduct, could be something external. All my money. This is not just a jury question, though. Yeah. 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 Something has gone wrong. That is the most likely conclusion. Something has gone wrong. How big is the thing that's gone wrong? How much is the problem that's gone wrong? Who knows? Something has gone wrong. Maybe it's a little thing. Maybe it turned out nothing went wrong after we looked into it. Something has gone wrong. Something has gone wrong that required us to make this special process. Yeah. And maybe we've now determined nothing went wrong, but something went wrong initially, I'll tell you what. Will the jury question be available? If it was a jury question, lol, but it wasn't. Yeah. The tamest thing it could be is calling prosecution to chambers. No, that's actually less tame. If only the prosecution or only the defense lawyer is called to chambers, that actually makes possibilities even more incensed. Because now you're talking about a judge having a conversation with only one of the parties present. And that doesn't happen unless something's gone really wrong. So if only the prosecutor or only the defense lawyer met with the judge in chambers, something's gone very wrong. That shouldn't happen. What's the tamest thing it could be? The tamest thing it could be that could justify it being in chamber. Let me think. The tamest thing I think it could be that would justify it potentially being in chambers would have to be a situation that posed some kind of threat to the process, but the situation or the threat is now extinguished. So the tamest thing it could be would probably be some kind of technical violation of the rules. One of the jurors did something that they're not supposed to do. That's a technical violation, but probably doesn't require ringing the alarm bell. But we're also not particularly keen to let everyone know about it. And we are also not particularly keen to do something about it. So it's a situation that has existed. The tamest thing it could be, and I don't know why this wouldn't be an open court, though. That's the thing, though. But the tamest thing I could think it could be would be a juror was walking around in the halls, and the juror overheard a conversation about the case and reported it to the judge. But even that, I don't know why that's not an open court. unless they were investigating. Yeah, so the tamest thing I can think it could be would be a juror's walking in the halls and someone tried talking to the juror about the case, or a juror overheard someone talking about the case, or was exposed to media about the case, and that required some further investigation beyond the mere fact of it. So it would probably not be exposure, like seeing a news program, because there's no particular need to do exposure. So it would probably have to be something like the juror passed in the halls with someone and someone said something inappropriate to them, and that required some sort of investigation of some kind and going to try to figure out who that person was. If it were a member of the media, that would probably do it. Some jackass who's a member of the media tried to talk to a juror, and we need to go find that member of the media and beat them to death. That is one of the tamer explanations. So yeah. Because if it were just the juror came in contact with information because they saw a news article or something, I don't see why you wouldn't do that in open court. So interference from a third party would be the tamest thing, I think, I can think of. Can someone give you a summary? Well, something happened, and we're not sure exactly what. We do know the defendant wasn't brought into the courtroom. The rumor mill says that there was a conversation between somebody and the judge in chambers who we're getting conflicting reports about. And Law and Crime, in their infinite wisdom, said it was a juror note. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's where we're at. And the fact that the court has not explicitly said what it is, the fact the court has not explicitly said what it is more suggestive that there's an investigation presently ongoing, but not necessarily indicative. Because if it was something that, like, you know, has been resolved, and yeah. But of course, if only one party was in the room, then we're talking about some other. Blessed in Texas said, your artwork and mirror up the ante. I suggest a pop of color on the side of the other top shelf. Well, they both have orange bowls on them. This one has an orange bowl. Both got. That one has an orange bowl, and that one has an orange bowl. So they both got pops of color. All right, what started this conversation? What started the conversation was is that things are happening that are strange. Yeah, we got colors in both. We got orange balls on both sides on the top shelf. Do you not like my orange balls? They're nice. Plus, we got beef fish. Beef fish is colorful. It could be just a personal issue that shouldn't be broadcast. Yeah, but you would think that they do that in open court without necessarily revealing the personal information. They could just be like, yeah, I got information from the jury. It's of a personal nature. So does the counsel want to read it? I don't have to read it out loud. Then they could talk about the thing without talking about the thing. Blessed in Texas says $2 says, oh, thanks. You're welcome. Yeah. Try to have a little bit of lively color. Plus we got the color from the shelves in the back itself. We got that purple splash. The LED lighting on the back really turned out, I think. Get that little purple hue behind you. I think that turned out nice. And the orange microphone turns out good. Yeah, see the orange with the purple contrast. Classic color theory. So at this point, we're just waiting for Law and Crime to tell us the truth. What really happened? Would they ask stay late? Stay late now. That would be right enough. No reason. Like there's no reason to do it in secret. Yeah, if they just want to stay late, no reason. Like, yeah. They've been waiting for a long time. It isn't a So now we're just watching nothing. It's coming. It's now 4:54 p.m. So it's coming towards the end of the day. So at this point, we're holding on to see what happens at the end of the day. It'd be really interesting if the jury comes back with a verdict after this. That would be really interesting. Because that would mean, of course, deliberations have been ongoing, which also is interesting for a lot of possible reasons. Because if the jury comes back with a verdict today, then it's like, okay, now you're looking, then it's probably something that doesn't concern the jury. Because if it concerned the jury and we were able to completely dispose, I mean, if it's simply a juror was sick and had to go, then we just bring them into, yeah, it can't be like a juror sick, because it was just like, yeah, juror number 5 is sick. We're done for the day. Everyone come back at 9. Or juror number 5 is sick. I'm dismissing him with cause. We'll find one of the alternates. Y'all come back tomorrow at 9, and we'll begin deliberations from the beginning. Start this whole thing all over. So it's like, what are the possibilities here? If they come back with a verdict, they'll be very, very interesting. Then you're thinking, maybe it concerns one. Then you're thinking, the jury comes back with a verdict, then the jury process hasn't been deliberated or hasn't been impaired. So now you're thinking something the jury doesn't know about. So it was a threat made to a juror through one of the counsels or the court that was sufficiently credible that required an investigation, but no need to let the juror know because they don't know. And apparently, I would imagine that the situation had been resolved if the jury is going to come back with their verdict, I would think. Can I clip the verdict? We'll see. We'll see. Thank you, by the way, for all your super chats and all your contributions. Thank you, by the way, for the 1,175 of you who are currently watching. Tell your friends that we're more well-informed than Law and Crime, who is making up shit. Also, by the way, will someone post the link for Richard Hogue, by the way? I can find it. Hold on. I can ask a favor because, you know, why not? Let me see if I can find the link. I would like you all, I'd like the 1,200 of you to please do me a favor. Those of you who have not voted yet, please go to this link that I've just posted in chat. My friend and yours, Richard Hogue, who is a fellow content creator, had a stroke about a year ago. And he has commented about it on his channel to some extent. And he has currently been nominated for an award for essentially bringing awareness to stroke because of his public profile. And we would like very much for him to win the award because he deserves it. So the 1,200 of you could please click on that link and vote. I would appreciate it. You can all vote once a day. Please do that. Please help my friend, Richard Hogue, win this award. And bring a little light into this world. Your help is appreciated. Thank you. He's very, very close to being number 1. And if the 1,200 of you will get off your lazy ass and click the link and vote for my friend, well, he'll be blowing all the competition right away now, won't he? So maybe you should be doing that. Lol. What I need you to do is I need you to get off your lazy bum and click the link and hit the vote button. As you're passing the Doritos to and from your mouth, maybe take a break and do a little mouse click action. That'd be helpful. How are you supposed to vote? You're supposed to click on this link I'm sharing in chat right now. heroes.stroke.org/rick.hogue. Hogue is never going to give you up or let you down or turn around or desert you. Wait, that's Rick Ashley. Either way, you should click the link. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna give. Ooh. Did I just Rickroll you? I sure did. What are strangers to love? Rick is incredibly wholesome. That is true. Rick is a very, very wholesome guy. And he is he's a guy who, you know, he's just an interesting guy. You have to vote, then click your confirmation email. And just a friendly reminder, by the way, if you don't want to give out your personal email, because, you know, who needs that? Who needs that? No one's got time for that. You can go to a website like 10 Minute Mail and generate a phantom address that, as the name suggests, only exists for 10 minutes at a time. But that's okay. It'll give you a very long string of characters as an email address, and you use that as your email address, and then you can vote, and you don't give away your email address. And what do you care? I mean, the email account will stop existing 10 minutes after it's created, but what do you care? Because you were just using it for the confirmation. So the email account will no longer exist, and everyone's happy. It's a great way to combat spam. Just remember there's services like that for that. If you need a throwaway confirmation address, now some of the smarter sites are onto that and make it a little bit harder. But you know, if you find if you work hard enough, you can usually find one of the services that hasn't been blocked. Did we have a verdict? What is the photo on the left of the shelves? Well, I'll be happy to tell you. On this side of the shelf, behind the logo, which we'll do here in just a second, hopefully. With this side of the shelf, this is Norman Rockwell's Freedom of Speech on this side of the wall. You see the man standing up. The man is standing up in a city council chamber somewhere, and he has the program for the night's events in his pocket, and he's standing up ready to address his city council on whatever it is that he's trying to address people. Make sure I get the name of this painting right. Yeah, okay. So this one on this side of the wall is also Norman Rockwell. It's called The Problem We All Live With. And this problem, or this picture depicts the desegregation era in the South. There are men, and you can't really see very well, but they have armbands on them that say U.S. Marshal, and they're taking the little girl to school. And also, you can't see very well in the picture from you, but there's graffiti on the wall that has the N-word, and is a picture of, you know, basically Selma, Alabama, circa mid-20th century. The little girl is being taken by the U.S. Marshals into school because integration is happening. And I personally find it very affirming. I find it very inspirational. I find it very uplifting. I find it very, just very positive about the rule of law and equality, and how equality sometimes comes because people have to really fight for it, and sometimes how freedom isn't free. I find it a very uplifting, upbeat, inspiring, affirming image about the rule of law and the prevalence of the Constitution. So that's Norman Rockwell's The Problem We All Live With. And then on down here is the Statue of Liberty, which, you know, stuff. So a very famous painting by Norman Rockwell. They're both Norman Rockwell. So yeah, some people find it depressing, but I find it very inspiring and uplifting. I don't know. When I look at that, I feel very hopeful. You know, I feel very hopeful. There's these strong men in their suits on behalf of the U.S. Marshals, just literally escorting this girl to school, trying to go to school. And like, I don't know, man, I just find it very inspirational and very positive. The little girl's name is Ruby Bridges. I don't know if it's meant to depict that precise event, but maybe it is. I just thought it was more, okay, so it is Ruby Bridges? Yeah, so I assumed it was just more emblematic. I didn't understand that it was like more meant to depict like a literal, but you're right. It depicts Ruby Bridges, a 6-year-old African-American school, on her way to William Franz Elementary School, which was an all-white public school, on November the 14th of 1960, during the New Orleans school desegregation crisis. Yeah, she's being escorted by 4 U.S. Marshals. And behind her on the wall are the N-word and KKK and a tomato splashed on the wall. So, yeah. I find it very inspirational. Here's the real event. There's the real picture. So, yeah, you're right. So, there's the real event. There are actually the U.S. Marshals who actually took her to school that day. Based. There she is, Ruby. And then there's the painting. A little bit more detail. Tomato and the 4 gentlemen behind her and stuff like that, with orange, the yellow bands and stuff. I find it very, very inspirational. It's a reminder to me. I find it to be a reminder to me of, well, it's a reminder to me of many things. It's a reminder also of how far we've come. Because there are some people who, for some reasons I cannot begin to understand, will argue such things as the United States is as racist today as it's ever been. And some people will even argue such things as the United States is more racist than it's ever been. And I'm like, are you sure, guys? I don't know, man. I think maybe the United States isn't as racist as it's ever been. I don't know. I just, some subtle clues. Maybe the United States has actually progressed. It just seems to me. The local news is reporting the jury is staying late. Okay, well, there you go. They weren't alive for some of it? Yeah, but how much history do you have to know? I mean, at all. I mean, to argue the United States is as racist now as it's ever been, like, do you have any understanding of history, like, at all? Even a little bit, to make that position? How ignorant of history do you have to be? I mean, to know even the most basic things about history. To argue the United States is as racist as it's ever been. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure it's as racist as it's ever been? This is as bad as it's ever gotten? We haven't improved at all? So, also like the way, also I'd like to take note that if you take that argument literally, which I do because I'm a logical guy, if you're literally arguing the United States is as racist as it's ever been, I'm saying, so what you're literally telling me then is we could return to this and it would make absolutely no difference because it's as racist as it's ever been, right? So why would you have any preference for one or the other? I mean, if it's racist now as it's ever been, then there's no reason not to prefer this over what we have now. This is just as good. Let's all go back to this because there was no reason to change in the first place because it's just as racist now as it's ever been, don't you know? So this is equally racist, so why even bother changing it? What was the point? Let's go back. And it just drives me crazy. Are you thinking about the words you're saying at all? Like, even a little bit. Kurt, be careful. I'm just saying that's the logic. I'm just saying that's the logic. That is logical. If it's as racist now as it's ever been, then A equals A. That's what you're telling me. And if A equals A, there's no reason for me to prefer either one because they're equal. I should have no particular preference for one or the other because it's equal. It's as racist as it's ever been. A equals A. So it must be true. By your logic, this is just as good as what we have now. So why ever bother changing? Why do we spend all that effort changing if what we got was exactly as what we had before? We should go back to it. What difference would it make? That's just logic. That's just logic. I'm just holding you to the logical conclusions of your own precepts. Don't at me. Don't at me. This is your fault, not mine. This is your fault, not mine. People who say stupid shit. And then I say things like, well, so you mean this is just as good? And you're like, be careful. I'm like, well, you're saying it's just as good. That was your point, not mine. Who am I arguing with? No one here says any of that. I didn't say any of you guys were saying that. I was just saying the people who say that. And there are some people out there, like Ibram X. Kendi. How about that asshole? Ibram X. Kendi to blame somebody with white fragility. You can go suck a dick, Ibram. I'm not sure whether or not you prefer to suck a white dick or a black dick. So let me know what your preference is, but either way, go eat a dick, Ibram. Yeah, I mean, and also not for nothing, but you do realize that the history of the United States also includes slavery. So lest I point out the obvious, okay, if the United States is as racist now, here's a logical thought experiment for you guys. You can play along at home. If the United States is as racist now as it's ever been, and if the history of the United States includes slavery, what does that mean in deductive logic? I know you can do it. I believe in you. If the United States is as racist as it's ever been, and if the United States' history includes actual slavery, then what does that mean? It means you should have no preference because they're equal. You should have no preference between these two because they're equal. They're just as good. What? What are we talking about now? I'm so confused. I don't understand the words coming out of your mouth anymore. It's just I don't understand what's going on now. Yeah. Yeah. No. It's like, yeah. If the United States is just as racist now as it's ever been, and if the United States in the past has had racism in the form of slavery, then there's no difference between the United States in, say, circa 1830 versus now. When it comes to social progress, putting aside technology, but when it comes to social progress, there's no difference. So the United States legal system in, say, 1830 is just as good as the United States legal system now. So you should have no preference between the two. That seems like a very odd conclusion to me. I don't like this conclusion very much. I was under the impression that slavery was bad and that not having slavery anymore was good. I was under the impression that not having slavery anymore was an improvement. That was my thought. Geez, man, it's really good that we don't own people anymore. That seems like a good thing. Maybe the United States is less racist now that it doesn't own people anymore. That was my conclusion. Apparently, I was very, very wrong for these conclusions somehow. Yeah, Kurt is too logical for the current agenda. I know. I'm just like, just understand the words coming out of your mouth and understand what that would imply. Just follow it all the way through. I'm not even asking that much of you. I'm asking you to go like one step in reasoning. It's not that hard, people. I'm not asking you to do some sort of massive syllogism with a lot of floating parts and, you know, it's like, dude, this is really easy. This is super simple. It's like, it's not that hard. But then again, many people kept asking me, hey, why is the defendant asking wearing earphones? So maybe people are just collectively dumb. Am I the only sane man left? I am legend. Is that what we're doing now? Yeah, Kurt, if A equals A, then slavery wasn't racist. Well, at least it's not more racist than what we have now. So either it's not racist or it's equally racist, either way, right? So if A equals A, then slavery is either not racist or it's at least as racist as whatever it is we're doing now. So there's no reason to prefer one over the other. Biological necessity. You know what I prefer? I prefer the not slavery. That's what I like. I like the not slavery. That to me seems superior. So I'm going to have to disagree with the premise that the United States is just as racist as it is today, because I personally prefer the not slavery. I think getting rid of slavery was a good idea. There's my hot take for the day. Wow, I'm so brave. And also the not segregation. So yeah, also the not segregation. Segregation seems, kind of like a dumb idea in retrospect. It just seems to me that segregation kind of seems like a bad idea. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't think that people should be segregated on the basis of race. I think that black and white people should be able to, drink out of the same water fountain. I think that would be an okay thing for people to do. I just have this thought in my head that, a black person and a white person should, all else being equal, both be able to sit at a lunch counter and have lunch. I mean, that seems good to me too. I think the not segregation is superior to the segregation. That's just a thought I have in my mind. Another hot take for the day. Wow, Uncivil Law is really going to get canceled with all these super hot takes. Who will stop him? Who will stop him? Yeah. I think rounding up all the Japanese citizens and putting them in internment camps wasn't exactly America's greatest moment. I think the fact that we're no longer doing that is an improvement over the doing it. I don't think Japanese citizens should belong in internment camps. That doesn't seem like a good idea to me. Let's not do that anymore. Yeah. And so to suggest America hasn't improved or increased in any way is ludicrous. Also, not for nothing, but when it comes to slavery, I mean, America wasn't exactly on the forefront of getting rid of slavery, but we also weren't exactly the back end either. Because Britain didn't get rid of slavery until what was it, like 1830 or something? I have to double check the dates, but it wasn't like the United States was massively behind on the getting rid of slavery. I mean, we were a generation later, I guess. The British abolished slavery in what, 1830-ish or something like that? And it took us till 1865, so, it took us a little longer, but, we're doing okay for ourselves over here. Slavery is unfortunately part of the world experience. Do people understand that? Do people understand that? Do people understand that slavery was the norm in the world for like forever? Do people understand that America didn't invent slavery? Do they get that? Did they understand that one? No? Is it just me? 1833. So I was pretty much on the money. I said 1830s, and it's 1833. Not bad off the cuff memory, right? I give myself a bonus point. Guys, I was in the right decade, man. That's pretty good for an American for history. I was like, you know, when did British Empire have? It was about 1830s? Oh, it was 1833. Oh, so my memory was right. Huzzah. Yeah. So you beat us to it by 32 years. But it's not like, you know, it was the history of all of the reality before then. So I think we're doing okay. Slavery was the norm until 5 seconds ago in world history. Yeah. I think America's doing pretty good for itself, all things considered. I think we're doing okay. And don't even come at me, Europe, with like trying to pretend America has some sort of unique racism problem. I love it when the Europeans try to look down on the Americans for racism. I'm like, dude, have you guys looked in the mirror like ever? So tell me how you feel about the Roma. No, you don't want to talk about that? Okay, then shut your mouth. Europeans looking all look at all superior on us. Look at us, we're enlightened Europeans. We're so enlightened over here in Europe, not like our American backwards cousins. There's no backwards compared to us, the enlightened Europeans. Yeah, you're not. No, you're no better than us. You like to think that you are, but you're not. Or let's go ask the Japanese how they feel about the Chinese, or vice versa. There's a fun conversation. Yeah, as long as we're looking for someone else in the world to make us feel better about racism, we could always ask about how the Japanese feel about the Chinese and how the Chinese feel about the Japanese. That's always a pretty good way to feel better about racism in America in a real hurry. Well, now I don't feel so bad. How did the Japanese and Chinese get along during World War II? I can't remember. Does anyone remember how the Chinese and Japanese got together during World War II? Anyone remember any of that? No? Just me? Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I've read a history book. When are we doing Cooking with Kirk again? Whenever my current supply runs out. The Koreans? Yeah. How they feel about the Koreans? There you go. The Japanese, Korean, Chinese relationship. There you go. That's a fun discussion for a good moment. Go. I'm really sure that as a general proposition, that, for example, when the Americans are wanting to feel sophisticated about themselves and want to do race politics, that they generally, as a general matter, lump the Japanese, Chinese, and Koreans together as just Asian. They're all the same because they're all Asian, don't you know? The Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. We can't tell them apart, says the college admissions office. Yeah, I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. You know, it seems to me that they have some bad blood with each other. Who could ever say why? What'd you miss? What you've missed is what we've discussed for the last 30 minutes or so is we've discussed how America, yes, this all started because someone said, hey, what are the paintings that you have? And then we wound up into a discussion about the comparative race relations in the United States versus the rest of the world. Also, incidentally, and here's something that will blow the progressives' minds. Here's something that will blow the progressives' minds, and they are totally not ready for this. The way that Americans perceive race is not the way that other countries in the world perceive race. So the way that we perceive race, what we would consider white and black and even Asian and all the rest of it, is not what other countries in the world consider race. So when you're talking about racism in a country like, I don't even know, let's say Brazil, for example, what they consider the racial boundaries are not the same as what an American would consider the racial boundaries. Wouldn't you know it? The concept of what races are is not a universal concept in the world. So the concept of what racism is even different in different parts of the world because they can't even agree on what the races are. Yeah, that's something that progressives aren't ready for. They are so stuck. They are so stuck in their American liberal progressive attitudes about race. It doesn't even occur to them that other places in the world don't have the same fundamental conception about what race is. That's a lot of arrogance. Yeah. But I know these things. You know how I know these things? I read a book. I read a book, so I know something a little bit. I know a little bit of something about like the U.S. slave trade. I know something a little bit about, you know, Korematsu and Dred Scott. I know something a little bit about the civil rights era, and I know something a little bit about European and racial relationships in history and today in Europe. And I know something a little bit about, you know, how one country might have raped another country a little too hard in Asia. Or, you know, things like that. And the pleasure wives. Don't at me. I know what's going on. I've read a book. Is there such thing as the Hobbs Act? Yeah, the Hobbs Act, sure. The Hobbs Act deals with essentially making what would otherwise be state crimes federal, particularly as it relates to robbery. So a Hobbs Act robbery, for example, is a robbery that occurs in interstate commerce. So sure, there's a Hobbs Act. It deals with federal crimes relating to otherwise state crimes that have a federal component. Robbery and firearms? Yeah, principally. Principally, yeah, robbery and firearms. Although firearms are more often treated for under 18 U.S.C. 930 than under the Hobbs Act, but a little bit, yeah. And then there's a wonderful one called the Lacey Act. The Lacey Act is an interesting one because that burns a lot of people. The Lacey Act essentially makes it a federal crime to possess anything that is illegal under any state local, tribal, or foreign law to the extent it passes in interstate commerce. So this happens a little bit with customs, probably more often than not. But someone will buy something from a country, not knowing it's illegal in that country to buy the thing, and they try to bring it into the United States. Now, the thing is not illegal in the United States. So it's not illegal to own it in the United States. It's not illegal to possess it in the United States. But it is illegal to own and possess in the country in which they bought it from. Right? So when they come back into the United States with a thing that was illegal for them to own in the country in which they bought it, or possess, or whatever, as the case may be, and now they bring it into the United States, even though it's not illegal to possess here, they're in violation of the Lacey Act, because the Lacey Act makes it illegal to possess anything that is illegal in interstate, foreign, or commerce, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you get it. So the Lacey Act is a nice one that trips people up that people don't know about. That's a nice obscure law that will get you into trouble. Also, by the way, just in case you needed to know, and I'm not sure why anyone would do this, but just in case you care, it's also illegal for the same reasons, principally, to do sex tourism. If we're talking about people under the age of 18. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'm going to fly to the Philippines and have myself a good time, I just want you to know that you violated federal law. So burn in hell, you degenerate. But the more you know. Because you might not be in America anymore, but you're a United States citizen. That means the United States has jurisdiction over you everywhere. Extraterritoriality. You might be in a foreign country, but the United States also owns a piece of your ass. Which also incidentally means that you can be violating the law of multiple countries at the same time, depending on what you're doing. And then it's a fun race of who gets to view first, right? So you go violate a law in, say, I don't know, Singapore, and you're also violating the law in the United States. So which sovereign do you want to bust your ass first? Yeah. Nobody but your husband owns a piece of yours? That's very cute. Jury's working late tonight. Yeah, we're just talking about stuff that I don't know how we got into this discussion, but we're talking about things in ranting at clouds. We get to choose? No, not necessarily. It's not that you get to choose. And also, incidentally, they both have jurisdiction over you. So it's a which of these countries wants you better, wants you more. But whoever gets possession of you first tends to win. Which also, incidentally, is the way it works for the United States, by the way, if you have a crime that goes over multiple jurisdictions, because you can violate the law in multiple jurisdictions at once, right? So to bring out an easy example, I suppose, if we're standing on the border of two states, and I'm in one state and you're in the other state, and I shoot you, die, well, that's a crime in my state, it's a crime in your state, and it's probably a federal crime because we've crossed state lines. So now, 3 potential jurisdictions all independently have causes of action over me, and all of them independently can come after me, and all independently can convict me, because I've sinned against all 3 sovereigns. So how would you like to be convicted of the same crime 3 times over? Because you offended the laws of 3 different sovereigns. So maybe next time, before you throw someone in the back of your trunk to kidnap them and drive, do your New England road trip, maybe you want to think about that one a little bit harder. It could be an interesting experiment on the 4 corners. That was an episode of The Simpsons one time, right? Sideshow Bob took Bart to the 5 corners. As like, I'm going to shoot you so that the bullet passes through all 5 corners at the same time. I don't remember how he's going to pull this off. It doesn't matter. And that way the crime hasn't been committed in any one state. And I'm like, oh, Bob, you're so wrong. Crime has been committed in every state. So instead of no one has jurisdiction, everyone has jurisdiction. You're fucked, Bob. Does double jeopardy work across the borders? No. No, double jeopardy only applies to the same sovereign. The United States Supreme Court resolved that question a couple years ago. So the state of Tennessee and the state of South Carolina and the state of Georgia and the United States government and the nation of France can all go after you, and double jeopardy does not apply. I hope you enjoy your multiple trials. Good luck. Supposedly there's some place in Yellowstone that has no jurisdiction. That is true. Well, it's not exactly true, but it's practically true. So yes, here's what happened, because the United States Congress is a moron. Okay, so yes, it's called the Zone of Death. If you want to go look it up, Yellowstone Zone of Death. All right, so here's what happened. Yellowstone is a national park. Yellowstone is big. Yellowstone, as it turns out, is mostly in Wyoming. I say mostly, but not completely. There's a little bit of it in Idaho, and there's a little bit of it in Wyoming. Okay? Or mostly in Wyoming. There's a little bit of Idaho, and there's a little bit of it in somewhere else. Anyways, the Constitution of the United States, Montana. So it's mostly in Wyoming with a little bit of Idaho and a little bit of Montana. Not very much, but a little bit. All right, so the Constitution of the United States says in relevant part that you must be tried in the state and jurisdiction in which the crime occurred, which is a federal provision, and this is the only reason it would make sense, because we're talking about federal law. All right, so the Constitution says you must be tried in the state and jurisdiction in which a crime occurs for federal law purposes. Now, because Yellowstone is a national park, the United States Congress, in its infinite wisdom, decided to make all crimes that happen in Yellowstone federal. So it is not possible to commit a state crime in Yellowstone because it's exclusively federal. It's federal property. The United States Constitution gives the Congress the ability to administer federal property, so no problem there, right? So it's federal property, we're going to administer it, it's federal property, we want federal law, only federal law. Okay, only federal law in Yellowstone, fine. Then the Congress of the United States said, okay, all of Yellowstone is in the District of Wyoming. The Federal District of Wyoming. Now, the Federal District of Wyoming is the same geographically as the state of Wyoming. Some states have multiple districts when it comes to federal court. Many states do not. For example, Texas has a couple different federal districts. California has a couple different federal districts. You know, some states have multiple districts, some states do not. Why? Because Congress said so. And there's really no other explanation other than that at the end of the day. Okay, so Congress has the right to divide its jurisdiction in any way it wants, but the jurisdictional lines do not cross state boundaries. The jurisdictional lines do not cross state boundaries. So there is no federal jurisdiction that exists in more than one state or territory. Okay? So they said, all right, all of Yellowstone goes into the District of Wyoming. The District of Wyoming only has one federal district. So the Federal District of Wyoming is the same exact geographic area as the state of Wyoming. Okay, so what happens if you commit a crime not within the state jurisdiction of Wyoming in Yellowstone? What do you do then, right? So what if you're in the Idaho part of Yellowstone? Or what if you're in the Montana part of Yellowstone? Well, because you need to find a jury of the state and jurisdiction in which the crime occurred. If it occurred in Wyoming, this is no problem, right? Because you're in the state of Wyoming and you're in the jurisdiction of Wyoming. So your potential jury pool is the state of Wyoming, right? That's easy. So if you're in Wyoming, you're fine. You're in the state of Wyoming, you're in the jurisdiction of Wyoming. Your jury pool is the entire population of Wyoming. Great. If you're in Idaho, then the jurisdiction is the state of Idaho and the jurisdiction of Idaho, which is this little tiny sliver that exists. And the population that exists inside the state and territory of Idaho is 0. there are no people that live in the territory and state of Idaho. And it's not much better in Montana, by the way. The population in the state of Montana is like 50. So, yeah, it's the zone of death because it's like, well, we can't get a jury from the state and territory, the state and jurisdiction at the same time because no one lives there. So we can't get a jury. But you're entitled to a jury trial. Remember, it's in the Constitution. You're entitled to a jury of your peers. Remember that part? So you're entitled to a jury, but there is no jury because there's no people. So we can't have a trial. So hence the zone of death. Because there's no one that can try you. And the state of Idaho can't try you because remember, it's exclusively federal jurisdiction. So the state of Idaho can't go after you because it's exclusively federal. The feds can't go after you because no one lives there. And so it's like, well, now what the hell are we supposed to do? Now, incidentally, this is a really easy fix. This is a super easy fix. All you have to do to fix this problem is transfer the Idaho part of Yellowstone from the District of Wyoming into the District of Idaho. And all you have to do fix this for Montana is transfer the Montana part from the District of Wyoming into the District of Montana. Then you're fine. And a law professor wrote about this like 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, a law professor wrote about this, and Congress still hasn't fixed it. So it's still a bug. No one has fixed it. And so, yeah, technically, well, I suppose you can commit any crime. You can commit any crime in the zone of death because, well, no one can charge you. The state can't charge you because it's exclusively federal, and the feds can't charge you because no one lives there. So, you know, there's that. So, yeah. And then I suppose we get into a fun debate about whether or not they can change the jurisdiction after the fact. So assuming someone did commit a murder in this place, can Congress change it after the fact? Or is that an ex post facto problem? So if someone did kill someone in the Idaho portion and Congress is like, this is really dumb, let's transfer the Idaho portion into Idaho. Can they do that retroactively? Or is that an ex post facto thing? I don't know. I guess someday we're going to find out, I guess. Is there a reason why Congress doesn't want to fix it? Congress is lazy and can't be bothered because right now because Congress doesn't fix things unless there's a problem. Haven't you ever noticed this? Neither is any government. Governments are not really notoriously great about doing things prospectively. Have you not noticed this in the past? The legislatures only tend to act when there's a problem. They're not really typically very well motivated or very encouraged to go fix a problem before it exists. So they're like, hey, there's a problem over here. It's like, well, it's not been a problem so far, so why do we need to fix it? So Congress hasn't fixed it because it's never been a problem. And around we go. Now, with respect to the International Space Station, you're okay. Incidentally, Congress has thought of that, I think, although I'd have to double check. Because the provision in the Constitution does say, it also says that if it does not occur within any state, then Congress can declare jurisdiction separately. So Congress can make up the jurisdiction if it does not occur within any state. Hence, if you're not inside the United States, like you're visiting France, then your jurisdiction is whatever Congress wants it to be, which I forget what they did. I think it's Washington, D.C., but I'd have to double check. But if it's not within a state, then it's not a problem. So I think, although I'd have to double check, Congress would have jurisdiction over the International Space Station because it's not within the jurisdiction of any state, although arguably it would be depending on exactly where the International Space Station is at the time, which would be fun because at least in law and to this day, like the jurisdiction in the first instance goes all the way up to heaven. So where is the International Space Station at the time the crime is occurring might be a very relevant question over who has jurisdiction. Yeah. So yes. So you might want to time your murder so you know so you're exactly in the jurisdiction you want to be tried in. There's fun one for you today. Yeah. There'd be an argument over the exact time a crime was committed. Also, incidentally, by the way, it would be the same if a crime committed on a plane. Although I believe if I'd have to double check, because again, I'm not sure. But I believe for crimes on a plane, there's jurisdiction wherever the plane took off and wherever it landed. I'd have to double check, but I believe that's true. So you'd have to check to make sure, but yeah, I think Congress solved that problem when it comes to planes. But I don't know if they did that with respect to ISIS. Strictly speaking, also because ISIS never took off. And it certainly never landed, so that doesn't work. What about a crime on the space station over the ocean? Well, then it's not within the jurisdiction of the United States, and we revert to the earlier rules, right? So now we're just not within this. Now we're just not within the boundaries of any state. So now we're just doing the laws that would apply to extraterritorial crimes. So that's easy enough. What if the crime happened exactly in the middle? Well, if it happened exactly in the middle, it's a fact question. Well, first of all, it's a question of fact, I'd like to point out ultimately. And if it did happen exactly in the middle, then you're in both places at the same time. So now both places have jurisdiction. So this sucks to be you. This is not a good outcome. So if you can prove it happened exactly on the border, it's not that no one has jurisdiction over you, they both have jurisdiction. So to make it simpler, like if you and me are both standing exactly on the state line of Texas versus Oklahoma, if we're both standing exactly on the state line and I shoot you, it's not that neither state has jurisdiction over me, both states do. So probably shouldn't do that. Because how could you, because also, by the way, a state, also incidentally, you can't be perfectly on the line because your body is thicker than an infinitely thin plane. The border is an infinitely thin plane, so you can't be exactly on. I suppose you can be bisecting the border, but then you're in both places at the same time. The border can bisect you, more of the point. The border can be bisecting you, but then you have effectively 1 foot in one state and 1 foot in the other. And now you're in both places. Now you're just fucked. So don't do that. What was publicized in 2005? The theory of the zone of death was publicized in 2005. The zone of death thing that was explained to you about Yellowstone, the 50 square miles or so where you might be able to commit any crime and get away with it. I don't recommend actually testing this out in the real world for any number of reasons, but, you know, theoretically. What's the zone of death? You'd have to go replay. It's a 50 square mile or so piece of Yellowstone that exists in Idaho. And the confluence of a couple principles of law strongly suggest that you can commit any crime up to and including murder in the 50 square miles, and you cannot be prosecuted. I wouldn't recommend trying it, but you know, it's there. If you murder a guy near state lines, you get charged based on the state you're in, the state he's in, or both. Yeah, if you kill someone across state lines, both. Because the relevant test, incidentally, is that an element of the crime occurred in the jurisdiction. As long as an element of the crime occurred, then both jurisdictions have you. So I shot you in one place, you died in the other. So, the intent I shot you is part of the crime. You died is part of the crime. They occurred in two different places. Both places have jurisdiction. So don't do that. It would also incidentally be the same if you were committing a crime that the component parts of which were committed in. So if you try to segment a crime up into its parts so the crime was never complete in any one jurisdiction, then basically every single jurisdiction has jurisdiction over it. So don't do that. What else can I answer for you? So are both considered in the verdict? There would be two separate trials in such a hypothetical. There would be two trials. You've committed a crime in two states. Both states can try you. Both states can punish you. Double jeopardy does not apply. So the state of Texas can try you, and the state of Oklahoma can try you, and possibly also the feds can try you. And double jeopardy does not apply. I hope you enjoy your trials in Texas, Oklahoma, and the federal government. Please do not commit crimes. This will be helped to be avoided. How about crimes committed on a flag of convenience in international water? I'm not an expertise in such laws, but I would imagine that the rule is going to be the country of the flag of convenience, I would think, without knowing for sure. I think that's the answer. If no other jurisdiction applies, I believe under maritime law, although I'm not an expert, I believe that if no other jurisdiction applies, that the flag of the vessel applies. I think. Which is also, incidentally, to say some other country might not also have jurisdiction over you at the same time, but also because potentially, depending on who the people are on the boat that the crime is being committed of, right? Is this an American who's on this boat? Right? Is this an American who's on this boat? Oh, then the American government might have jurisdiction over you. But I'm in international waters. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting and all. But you're an American citizen, right? Yeah, but I'm in international waters. But you're an American citizen, right? Right. Okay, so the United States government has jurisdiction over you. But I'm not in America. But you're a United States citizen, right? Right. Okay, so the United States government has jurisdiction over you. You can't escape. You can't get away. Own you. They own you everywhere. Serious. Serious. That is the answer. Serious. That is, in fact, the answer. It is 100% possible. It is 100% possible to commit a crime in a different country, or possibly no country at all, and the Americans still will have a piece of your ass. Congratulations to being a United States citizen. Also, incidentally, this aspect is not uniquely American, by the way, in this respect. So whatever country you happen to be a citizen of might also have a piece of your ass, depending on where you live in the world. So yeah, there's lots of potential rules. It might be a fight between multiple different nations, but someone's going to own you. Yeah, the flagship nation has jurisdiction. Yeah, yeah. If you're flying a flag of convenience, you're flying a flag, though, right? Yeah, but it's of convenience. Okay, but you're flying the flag, right? It's of convenience. Super, but you're flying the flag, right? Yes. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoy the convenience. That's probably, yeah, that sounds like the right answer to me. Just go hide in the Ecuadorian embassy? Cute. Oh, there looks like there might be some movement in trial. Maybe. There's some movement in front of the camera. There's someone's head in front of the camera. Something might be happening. Now, embassies are interesting. Embassies are interesting. Contrary to widely held belief, embassies are not the soil of the home country. They are subject to, they're still the soil of the home country, which incidentally means and one of the reasons you know that, by the way, is because you can expel the entire embassy, which is in case has happened. Like it happened to Iran, for example, in the UK. There was a shooting in the 70s, I think, from the Iranian embassy. There was a machine gun fire from the Iranian embassy into the streets of London. And the British were pretty pissed. And the Iranians refused to accept responsibility. So they expelled the entire embassy because it's still their land. So they just expelled the entire embassy. So diplomatic immunity. So you're still under the jurisdiction of the home country, but it's not, strictly speaking, the soil of the embassy. So yeah, and also incidentally, as long as you get permission. So the Ecuadorians eventually gave permission to the British to come in to get Assange. But fair enough. It's their. They had to get the Ecuadorians permission, and they got the Ecuadorians permission. So that solves that problem. Do we know what the in-chambers question might have been? We discussed that a lot, Jules. Our best guess is something has gone wrong in the state of Denmark. What? I don't know. Diplomatic immunity also extends to the car of the embassy. And, of course, to the ambassador. And it usually extends, I'm not an expert on such things, but usually extends a couple levels down from the ambassador. But not a whole lot of levels. It's like, what do they call the second in command after the ambassador? I should know this. What do they call the second in command after the ambassador? Chief of mission. That's the one I wanted. Chief of mission. Thank you, Johnny. Chief of mission was what I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah, they call it the chief of mission. So it usually extends to the ambassador, chief of mission, and like 2 or 3 other people at the top, and that usually is where it stops and serve diplomatic immunity. Where they come up with these titles, who knows? And then they have these fancy titles, right? And I'll fuck it up. They call them plenipotentiary and what is the other one? That's a really fancy title for an ambassador. Plenipotentiary and I can't remember. My State Department, I should take the diplomatic exam. Why not? I like taking exams. I'll take the diplomatic exam. Maybe I'll become an ambassador. It's not too late. Envoy extraordinaire. Yeah, something extraordinaire. I don't think it's envoy. Emissary extraordinaire? Something like that, yeah. Plenipotentiary and envoy extraordinaire, something like that. Exam stream? Oh yeah. It's definitely not too late. Oh yeah, I mean I'm only 43. I could be an ambassador somewhere. That'd be a good one. I won't even commit many crimes. Which basically means that they have the power to sign on behalf of their government. Pretty cool. Solution to the zone of death is to remove statehood of Idaho? No. The solution to the zone of death is to make the federal district for Idaho have jurisdiction over part of the park that's in Idaho. That's the solution. There's already a federal district of Idaho. It already exists. Just give it jurisdiction over the Idaho part of Yellowstone and you're good. That'll solve the problem. Does Russia have an opening? Not my first thought, but you know. What country would I want to be an ambassador to? Good question. I don't know. Ukraine? Ukraine available? I'll take Ukraine. Trinidad? Trinidad's a good call. I'm gonna need a lot of State Department sunscreen. I'll tell you what, though. South Africa. No girlfriend as of yet, my friend, but we've only been in Houston a short time, so maybe later. I would imagine being ambassador might help with the girlfriend front, though. Haiti? Tough. Thank you, Jen Decker, for upgrading your membership to $5.99. Colombia, most beautiful, eligible women on the planet? Okay, there you go. Have to learn some Spanish. Figure it out. Master, extraordinary, and plenipotentiary. That sounds amazing. Introduce you to your sister-in-law. Got gobs of single friends. Hey, there you go, man. Introduce me to your sister-in-law. Please do. Introduce me to your sister. Available. I'm pretty well educated, as we've been discussing through the stream. I understand my history. I understand the law. I'm reliable. Good guy. Hook me up. Anne Lois case in UK, wife of a CIA agent working in UK, killed a British citizen driving on the wrong side of the road. I remember that case. Quite a sore spot between us and the UK. I remember. I'd be a good ambassador just about anywhere. I can tolerate Mensa folks. I can tolerate Mensa, as long as you know they're of younger. My experience, Mensa folks, my experience, they're not exactly childbearing. So if they're of a younger sort, then yeah, that would be great. Mensa folks. I'm in Mensa. I'm okay. We can go to meetings. There you go. See, there's an in. There's an in. Let me know where your sister's friends. Let me know what Mensa meetings they're going to, and I'll go. There you go. There's a way to hook us up. What they do, they're kind of a high IQ society. They kind of don't really do anything except embrace how smart they are. What kind of music do I like? Depends what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm studying or trying to concentrate, then I usually do like lo-fi or bluegrass. If I'm working out, obviously I'm going to do something higher intensity, like maybe some rap or EDM kind of music if I'm working out. If I'm just driving in the car, then I tend to prefer grunge, 90s grunge. There's the kinds of music I like. Classical sometimes. I think Beethoven's, was it his Eighth Symphony Movement 2 or Seventh Symphony Movement 2? I forget, but I really like it. One of my favorite pieces of music. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. That's probably my favorite classical music ever. Seventh Symphony, thank you. Yes, yeah, I know why you requested Iran's withdrawal. I told you that. Yeah, I know. I said exactly that. Yes, I know you requested Iran's withdrawal. You didn't so much request it as demand it. You expelled the embassy. Yeah, you wanted to know who it was. They wouldn't do it, so you expelled the entire embassy. That's what we were talking about. Gregorian chant. I used to listen to a lot of Gregorian chant, actually. I used to be into some Gregorian chant. Pearl Jam, I never liked Pearl Jam. I was always a Nirvana guy, and I hated Pearl. I hate Pearl Jam. There's a hot take. I hate Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam sucks. Never understood the appeal of Pearl Jam. When I was in high school, a lot of people liked Pearl Jam. I was like, this is bullshit. Dave Matthews Band is okay. Excuse me, please, one more drink. You make it strong. I'll need to think. She broke my heart. Grace is gone. One more drink and I'll move on. Nine Inch Nails. Nine Inch Nails has some stuff that's there. Jane's Addiction, no. Portishead. Portishead is great. I really like Portishead. I like her song All Mine in particular. Very, very cool. For that, I describe it as a sort of blues jazz aesthetic. I really like that song. Like, I don't know if that song is defining a genre, but it's like, that's some really like some big band heavy backing blue jazz kind of thing. Like, yeah, it's some good shit. Prodigy? You mean The Prodigy? Soundgarden? Yeah. Smashing Pumpkins for sure, though. Weezer? Love Weezer. Smash Mouth? No. Korn is cool sometimes. Some of their stuff is nice, especially when you're like working out. Falling away from. Good for workout music. Green Day. Welcome to paradise. People in the US are super racist? No, I don't think that's true. I don't really think that we're any more racist than anyone else in the world. I think other people are racist in ways that they don't even necessarily notice. Maybe the racism is different, but I don't necessarily think it's worse. And in my experience, United States Americans tend to be pretty nice on the whole. Beatles or Stones? Beatles for sure over Stones. 100%. 100% Beatles over Stones. Do I like happy hour? I do like happy hour. Happy hours are fun. I'd really prefer like just a recommendation though. I'd really prefer to like, I'm not really good at approaching people. I'm not really good at that like cold open thing. I'm not really good with pickup lines. I'm really not good with that kind of thing. So I really don't like trying to like pick up women at a bar. I just don't like that kind of thing. I tend to work a lot better on like recommendations or joint activities and joint clubs and things like that. There are some guys who can like go pick up any girl, and I've never been one of those guys, which is unfortunate but true. Yes, yes, I live in Western. I live in West. I live in West. I live in West Houston, so that would be fine. Texas D Brazil was nice. Thank you for asking. Going to Crime Con? Maybe. Is it in Houston? I might go. PCU or With Honors? Those are very different movies, PCU and With Honors. I mean, those are very different movies. Those are like, that's a very strange set of movies to compare. PCU and With Honors? I mean, With Honors is a drama. PCU is a comedy farce, more akin to Animal House. That's a very strange comparison which to make. PCU versus With Honors? Parliament Funkadelic was really good in PCU, though. I'm not going to lie. George Clinton was really good in that. Such different movies. Such different movies. Who's making this comparison? PCU and Animal House? I'm gonna have to go PCU. I mean, it's more of my generation. It's obviously a ripoff of Animal House, and I appreciate that. But PCU speaks a little bit more to me, even though it is the cover. Forgive me, I have sinned. Porky's or Oppenheimer? Oppenheimer? I'm going to go with Oppenheimer over the also, I'm going to go over with it over versus Revenge of the Nerds. You ever notice that a lot of those 80s rape comedies are just about rape? Like Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds and other movies. It's just like the hijinks are apparently sexual assaults. It's the hijinks of the 80s. Armageddon or Deep Impact? I mean, they're basically the same movie. So either one, it's a toss-up. Armageddon, I guess. Don't want to close my eyes. Don't want to fall asleep because I missed you, babe. And I don't want to miss a thing. I haven't seen Fat Man and Little Boy, so I don't know. I can't comment on that versus Oppenheimer. Finding Nemo or Frozen? Finding Nemo, man. 100%. Yeah, Frozen can let it go, man. Finding Nemo for life. Walter White or Scarface? Walter White is a much more interesting character. Although I still maintain that season 1 of Breaking Bad is not that great. I just don't really buy the transition in season 1 from Walter White into Heisenberg, especially like season 4 or episode 4, where he has that offer from his former partners at Gray Matter. And they're like, we'll bring you on, we'll give you a huge salary, we'll give you benefits and everything else. It's basically a Deus Ex Machina to get him out of the situation. And he doesn't accept it. Now, in the end of the series, like in later parts of the series, we'll understand that more with like his hatred and stuff, especially like with the end, about why he didn't want to work with them because he felt betrayed and all that by that. But I didn't really think that they set it up to for him to deny it at the time. And I didn't really 100% buy his transition. His transition into, cooking meth and something was like a little too fast, and I didn't quite buy it. Season 1 I also found boring at parts. So I love Breaking Bad and I love Better Call Saul, but season 1 of Breaking Bad is kind of, it doesn't really work for me. Sharknado or Harry and the Hendersons? Harry and the Hendersons. Eternal Spotlight of the Spotless Line of Vanilla Sky. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I'll take over Vanilla Sky. Starship Troopers or Space Truckers? Starship Troopers. Very good movie. Very good movie. I'm not even 100% sure what the message is supposed to be fundamentally. I think it's supposed to be a critique of fascism, but they wind up winning in the end, so, and showing their resiliency and resolve and how everyone else kind of sucks. So it's kind of like a propaganda film for fascism. So I'm not really 100% sure what the message is supposed to be. Fascism is awesome, but it's a good movie. I'll definitely give it that. The Wire or Sopranos? Sopranos. Not fair, is it? I'm gonna go Sopranos. It's a tough call though. I mean, The Wire is certainly the OG and the one that stands up better over time. I think I'm still gonna go Sopranos though. Which Back to the Future movie was best? I like them all. I actually think it's arguably a perfect trilogy. I think it's one of the few perfect trilogies. I actually like all of them. I also like Die Hard 1, 2, and 3. Not so much with the later ones. I know there are a lot of people very critical of Die Hard 2, but I feel Die Hard 2 gets a little bit more flack than it deserves. I think Die Hard 2 is a really good movie. So I think Die Hard 1, 2, and 3 are a really great trilogy. Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3 are a really great trilogy. They're all good. They're all good. Why are you gonna make me pick? Why are you gonna make me pick between 3 really great movies? I'll tell you this though, I am team New Hope over The Empire Strikes Back. And I know that can be a little controversial because a lot of people are like, Empire Strikes Back is just the best. And I get that. I totally appreciate it. But for me personally, I kind of like New Hope a little bit more. So there's some fighting words. So New Hope over The Empire Strikes Back. I know, really controversial. Bananas or Citizen Kane? I haven't seen Bananas, and I think Citizen Kane is massively overrated. I think Citizen Kane is wildly overrated. A lot. I think it's the type of movie that art people say they really like to make them seem like erudite and elitist. I think it's way overrated. Poseidon Adventure or Earthquake? I'll go Poseidon Adventure. Star Wars or Star Trek? I'll go Star Trek. I mean, I'm a bit more of a fan of Star Trek over the overall. Naked Gun or Police Academy? Well, I mean, it's Naked Gun. Leslie Nielsen is just one of the best comics of all time. He was unbelievable in Airplane. I mean, how can you not like? And they made a Naked Gun television show, which was also hilarious, and was very sad it was canceled. Naked Gun for sure. Volcano or Dante's Peak? Dante's Peak. Airplane or Airplane 2? Airplane. Liam Neeson's going to be in the Naked Gun remake. That might be interesting. Liam Neeson versus Leslie Nielsen. That would be a very interesting character choice. Yeah. Joe versus the Volcano or Castaway? Ooh, what a good question. Joe versus the Volcano or Castaway? Ooh, I'm gonna have to go Joe versus the Volcano. I think that's, yeah. You know, Castaway gets a little sappy and a little emotionally overwrought. Joe versus the Volcano is just a funner time. Grape or orange? I'll go orange. Gone with the Wind or Twister? This is a very strange comparison. Again, these are 2 movies that I wouldn't think to put in the same comparison breath. The Goonies or Monster Squad? Monster Squad. No, The Goonies. I'm gonna go The Goonies. And also the movie Little Monsters with Fred Savage. I'm a little bit of a sucker for that one. The Flintstones or Captain Caveman or Captain Caveman and Sonny? The Flintstones. National Treasure 1 or 2? 1. Coke or Pepsi? Coca-Cola, baby. Always the original. Democrat or Republican? Republican. What do you think I am over here? I'm Republican. Flintstones or Jetsons? I say Flintstones. Close, but I think Flintstones is probably better than Jetsons. Fantastic Voyage versus Journey to the Center of the Earth. Journey to the Center of the Earth is a more classic. Royal Cola or Dr. Pepper? Dr. Pepper, 100%. Dr. Pepper is great. Dr. Pepper is one of my favorite beverages. Dr. Pepper does not get enough love. Dr. Pepper is fantastic. Steve McQueen or Paul Newman? Paul Newman. Rocky Horror Picture Show or Frankenstein Original? I have never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show, and that is by some deliberate design, because people have told me about Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it doesn't sound fun to me. It doesn't sound fun, right? I say, okay, I'm going to go watch it, and they're like, well, you can't go watch it yourself. You have to go watch it in a crowd. And then they go tell me about what happens in the movie theater with people reciting the lines and throwing toast at the screen and all the rest of that bullshit. I'm like, I don't want any of this bullshit. That doesn't sound like fun to me. That sounds like some bullshit. That doesn't sound fun to me. I don't want any part of this. It's not for me. You know, so I made a choice. I made a choice not to see Rocky Horror Picture Show because you guys, the fans of it, have turned me off of it. It's like you got to like this movie the way I like it. You've got to go watch this movie this way. You got to go watch it my way. You got to go to the theater and you got to watch it my way, and you got to like it the way I like it. And I'm like, piss off. Piss off. I don't want to watch it your way. And why don't you watch it by yourself? Because you so pissed me off, I don't want to watch your stupid movie. Go fuck yourselves. This is my hot take. You can shove it right up your bastard asses, all of you. Pure wine is fantastic. I agree. You shouldn't watch the movie on your own. You'll hate it. Yeah, that's what people tell me. You shouldn't watch on your own. You'll hate it. It's like, okay, so you need to watch in a crowd. And then they tell me what happens at these crowds. They tell me what happens at the movie theater. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like fun. I don't want to be any part of this. I don't want to be there. I don't want to spectate it. I don't want to be part of it. I don't want to be anywhere in this. This doesn't sound fun to me. I don't want to be part of this. I'm out. Up Periscope or down Periscope? Up Periscope, man. Up Periscope. No, wait, no. Down Periscope. Yeah. Kelsey Grammer? Kelsey Grammer? Down Periscope. The movie's so campy, it became a participation event. That's what I'm saying. It has now become an inside joke. It's literally become an inside joke. And you guys keep describing it to me. It's like, I don't want to be part of the joke. I don't want that. That's okay. I don't want whatever this bullshit is. You can keep it. Best Bond, you only live twice. I'm a sucker for a hollowed out volcano. What can I say? Unsolved Mysteries or FBI Files? Unsolved Mysteries. Cheers or Frasier? Frasier. Key lime pie or apple pie? Is the key lime pie made with actual key limes? Then if so, key lime. If not, apple pie. Idiocracy or Fight Club? That's a hard call. I'm going to have to go Fight Club. Yeah, I'm going to have to go Fight Club. It's a more interesting message, and I do appreciate the toying with the idea of what is real and what's not, and you're not quite sure what is real and what's not. And they play that line very well in Fight Club. Even by the end of the movie, you're not quite sure what's real and what's not. But it's done in a really interesting way to my mind. And it's more interesting about what's real and what's not. I find that interesting. Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul? They're both great movies, or both good television shows. I'm gonna have to go Better Call Saul on the whole. But it's close. It's tough. Fight Club is a movie about schizophrenia. I'm not sure if it's about schizophrenia either. I'm not sure necessarily what it's about. It's about a person who's an unreliable narrator. That much we know. About a person who's an unreliable narrator. But is it schizophrenia? Is it just wish fulfillment? Is it a mental delusion? What is it exactly? Yeah, it's interesting because by the end I'm not sure that you know what's real. At least in my interpretation of the movie. The writer said it is, well, you know, death of the author, as they say, I guess. Death of the author. What is the writer of the movie now? All in the Family or the Jeffersons. Jeffersons, it's funner. Soda or sparkling water? Those are the same thing. Unless you mean like flavored soda. But nothing wrong with sparkling water. I mean, I guess baking soda, I guess soda, strictly speaking, can have things other than carbonation. But are you thinking about a club soda? What are we talking about here? Perrier or San Pellegrino? San Pellegrino. Coffee or tea? Coffee all day long. Matrix trilogy or Lord of the Rings trilogy? Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, I will say that I do think the Matrix trilogy gets a slightly bad rap, and I do say slightly because the biggest problem for me with the Matrix trilogy is that they completely break the premise of the movie, because it's the end of the second movie, right, where he's blind or something and he holds up his hand in the real world. He holds up his hand and he gets the like flying robot that's flying at him at real speed to be able to stop. He's able to use his Matrix powers in the real world. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. The only way that makes sense is if he's still in a matrix. Like if there's multiple matrices, right? The simulation of the simulation. So he's still in a simulation, and therefore everyone's still in a simulation. Is the only way that makes sense. But that's not the way they resolve the movie. That everyone's in, so it doesn't make any sense. So I object to that. I object to that a lot. Office Space or Wayne's World? Office Space holds up better. Bourbon or Scotch? Bourbon, 100%. I'm a bourbon guy through and through. I don't really care for Scotch. I don't really care for Scotch. If I were going to drink Scotch, I'd probably just drink Johnny Walker Green, which, by the way, is the right way to go. Because Johnny Walker Green is the only what they used to call vatted Scotch. I don't think they use that term anymore. But they used to, right? Because every other Johnny Walker is a blended whiskey, right? They use a base grain alcohol. They use a base grain alcohol to which they add multiple different casks of Scotch to break out the flavor profile. So even Johnny Walker Blue has this base alcohol that's in it, right? So that's a blended Scotch. Johnny Walker Green is the only one in the line that's what used to be called a vatted blend. Vatted, because it doesn't use the base alcohol. It is only a blend of single malts. So it is the best in the line for that reason. It is the only one that is a pure blend of single malts. So Johnny Walker Green, but it's still not my favorite. Johnny Walker Blue is also massively overrated generally. Just but bourbon through and through. I'm a bourbon guy. If I were going to drink Irish whiskey, I'd drink Redbreast. I've got some in my closet. Blue or black ink? Blue. Especially if you're a lawyer, in my humble opinion, because then you know what the original is. If you sign things in blue ink, you know what the original is, because most all copy machines only copy black and white. Surely there are color copy machines, but people don't make color copies. So if you use blue ink, then you know which is the original. So blue ink is better. It's an easy way to tell, at least. So why not? Holy Grail or Life of Brian? That's not fair. Life of Brian. I did grow up in South Carolina. That's true. So now that we've asked 3,000 questions about my personality, are any of your sister friends more or less interested in me? Now they know my taste in various things. Apple Music or Amazon Music? I'm a Spotify guy. Favorite James Bond? You Only Live Twice. Is the jury still deliberating? Maybe. Sorry, you're very nosy? That's okay. I don't mind. They're just things I like versus other things I like. Which actor for James Bond? Sean Connery. How do you get from South Carolina to Texas? Principally the I-10. Beach or city? City. Austin Powers 1, 2, or 3? 1. Bud Light or Coors? Coors. Anything not to drink Bud Light, right? Star Trek? Star Trek over Star Wars. All right, let's do a rating of Star Trek movies. Best Star Trek movie is Star Trek 6, Undiscovered Country. Second best Star Trek movie is Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan. Third best Star Trek movie is Star Trek 3, Search for Spock. Worst Star Trek movies: Star Trek 4, absolute garbage bullshit. There Be Whales can go shove it right up their ass. Yeah, okay. Star Trek 5. I'm more insulted by Star Trek 4. Star Trek 5 sucks too. Star Trek 5 is also bad, but I'm going to rate Star Trek 4 worse just because I'm infuriated on I'm infuriated by it. I'm infuriated about it. I'm infuriated by its whole thing. It's some absolute bullshit. At least in Star Trek 5, they were like hypothetically trying to say something, and Star Trek 4 is just some hippy dippy bullshit I can't even tolerate and can't be part of this world. Star Trek 4 can suck my balls. My for or against Q episodes in the Star Trek TNJ, they used Q very well and very sparingly, so they weren't very bad. Best episodes of TNG. I like Who Watches the Watchers, classic one. I like First Contact, the show, the TV show, not the movie. First Contact. I like what are some other great ones? Chain of Command, part 1 and 2 are really good. Let's see, what else from TNG do I really like? Clues is a good one. Depeche Mode or Nine Inch Nails? Nine Inch Nails. There Are Four Lights. Yeah, that's from Chain of Command. Trouble with Tribbles. Cute. The redo of that on DS9 was a lot of fun. The redo of that episode in DS9. DS9, I think, although I haven't watched it as much, I think on the whole DS9 is the best Star Trek. It's close because I think TNG is also really good, but I think DS9 might be, and the best episode of all time still has to be Helmet Light. I mean, that's such a great episode. That's not to like. It's a fantastic episode. Glorious. It's absolutely glorious in every way. Come fight me. Come fight me. John Wayne or Glenn Ford? John. I DS9 is serialized versus TNG episodic, and they were all episodic, right? Star Trek the original is episodic, TNG is episodic, Voyager's episodic, Enterprise kind of half and half. Enterprise was better than people gave it credit for, and is particularly better in retrospect. Enterprise got a lot of shit, but it was a better show than people gave it credit for. PlayStation or Xbox? PlayStation. 100% forever. PlayStation for life, man. I had a PlayStation 2 and they sold me. I'll be loyal until I die. Windows or Linux? Windows. DS9 was a bit of a ripoff of Babylon 5. I don't see it that way. I mean, I've heard people say that, but I don't really see it that way. I think they're very, very different. But that's just me. Ricky Gervais or Dave Chappelle? Dave Chappelle. Rita Hayworth or Scarlett Johansson? Well, both pretty girls. I guess Scarlett Johansson will go. Cabbage Patch or Garbage Pail? Garbage Pail. I used to have a nice little collection of Garbage Pail kids. I don't have them anymore, but I used to have a nice little. George Carlin or Richard Pryor? George Carlin or Richard Pryor? I think George Carlin was better in his prime than Richard Pryor was in his prime. But I think Richard Pryor on the whole was more consistent. Also, George Carlin changed up what he was doing more and didn't always succeed in the attempt. I think Pryor. It's close, but yeah. Frank Zappa or David Bowie? Frank Zappa. Colorado or California? Colorado. Bill Hicks or Dennis Leary? Dennis Leary. Dennis Leary is better. Bill Hicks is kind of a one-note kind of guy. Nothing wrong with him. He was good in Blue Collar, but I think Dennis Leary has more staying power than Bill Hicks. Tolkien or Martin? Well, Tolkien actually finished his books. So there's that. Friends or How I Met Your Mother? No one ever told you life will be this way. Paper or plastic? Plastic, baby. Chocolate or mint chip ice cream? Depends a little bit what I'm trying to accomplish, but mint by its nature is a little bit brighter and a little bit more vivifying. So if I want a little bit more of a pick-me-up, it gets that nice aromatic scent of mint. It's nice. Tacos or burritos? Really good taco, I think, would be superior. If George R.R. Martin wants to ever finish writing, I'll read his books. How about that? If he ever wants to finish it. Spaghetti or pizza? Pizza. It's easier to manage, and you can do more things with it. You know, you can like do a tomato sauce. You can do an Alfredo sauce. You can do like a garlic sauce, a white sauce. You can do a thin crust, a thick crust. You can do it. You can do so many different styles. You have so much more flexibility with pizza. Dog or cat? Dog. 100% dog. I want a dog with floppy ears. I want a dog that goes. One little dog that goes, I will call it Floppy and we will go on adventures. Contract or criminal law? Those are two radically different disciplines. What are we trying to do? And we're just trying to say which is the better field of law? Well, contracts are inherently better because, you know, if you can do things by agreement, then that's better. People doing things by agreement is better because criminal law means someone's doing it bad. Contract law means everyone's agreeing. Agreement is good. So contract law is better. All right, I'm going to sign off and watch the jury come back in 5 seconds, but I'm going to sign off. All right, I got to go. I'll talk to you guys later. This has been fun. If the jury comes back, I may try to stream it, but we've been talking for a while. So yeah, if you live anywhere in the even western half of Houston, I will be happy to meet you or your girlfriends or whomever. And I'll be happy to meet them at a place that they like, or we can go out on a date. I like wine. I'd be happy to take them to a wine bar, do some cheese, do a little, you know, little salami cheese platter maybe. That'd be nice. Do a little wine tasting, hang out, be fun. All right, give me a call, man. I'll talk to you guys later. And we will be on in an hour for Thursday Night Thunderdome. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.